Dear audience, faster community events continue, and now at the end of the year 2021, and we are ready for in new year as well. And then we would like to hear today about our new event. The name and subject is how tech trends evaluate and accelerate digital transformation for industries, especially fintech industry we will focus on, but in general, this digitalization by forcing by new tech trends, and especially in pandemia is a force majeure factor. As you know, that like remote working offices, remote office workers, I mean, and then another application that enterprises, even small companies now leveraging and shifting their all business styles. Of course, customers also expecting many things from companies, even from banks, because of this fintech arising very fastly. So in the name of the new technology trends, as masalan, for example, AI, machine learning, deep learning, and data science issues, big data issues on board, of course, and then how companies, corporate leverage this kind of subjects, tech trends according to the, for example, RPA, robotic process automation, or chatbots. Already, especially for customer centers, automatized their all application and process, as you know, of course, if you are in the industry. So this is a kind of examples that also industry 4.0 as general for manufacturing industry changing themselves and upgrading themselves according to the AI, robotics, and 3D printers, and also forecastings and production in time, or production according to the customer expectations and persona of customer, their designing of their manufacturing phases according to this kind of new styles. So all these lives and business and changing according to the digital transformation. So let's analyze that what kind of digital transformation technologies are now and on the board, and how affect our business lifestyles. And so even many companies, as you know, digital business styles is very strongly we are seeing, like Uber or Netflix is a kind of, Netflix was as DVD as before, as you know, and then or CD or DVD, they're hiding this, and then after somehow they became Netflix, and even nowadays they start gaming, in gaming industry, and serving to the game to their subscribers, online games, I mean. So this is now today we have Mr. Cyril from Belgium, Mr. Hatim from Oman, Mr. Muhammad Khatib from Jordan and Kuwait. It's changing depending on the headquarter of office. And then I would like to give their turn according to the, especially from Cyril Bey. Cyril Bey, Mr. Cyril, as first stage, do you like to mention about yourself as entrance, and then what do you think of, what do you talk about digital transformation issue? As far as I know, you will talk about some biometrics innovation to industry. I would like to give it to your turn.
Thank you, Mustafa. Hello, everyone. I'm Cyril Ghanem. I'm based in Belgium, in Brussels. To give you a bit of background about myself, I'm from Lebanese origins. I worked for the French bank Société Générale, where I was in charge in multiple countries of their international retail banking business, mainly focusing on payments and on lending. I moved after that to MasterCard, where I was heading sales for the medium and small segment of banks across Europe, managing some 500 customers, 500 issuers and acquirers in Europe. And then I moved to the Middle East, where I was working for American Express as VP and head of the consumer business for Middle East, North Africa. Then I opened FinVentures as a consulting firm. And a few years back, I moved back to Belgium, where I headed the European business and strategic partnerships for World Remit, international remittance company. And now I am heading sales for IDEX Biometrics for the EMEA region. So what I will tell you about today is mainly why the biometrics card are coming at the right time, what are the biometrics card, and I'll give you an example of one launch program that was done in France, and then open the floor if you want to hear more about that.
Most welcome, Cyril Bey. Thank you for your introduction. And then Hatim Bey Mr. Hatim from Oman. We would like to hear about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. My name is Hatim Dawood Dawati. I have experience in the market around 21 years. Basically, most of it I spend it in digital transformation and technology related. Currently, I am a researcher and consultant. I have my own independent firm called Ghawazi. Now, basically, I'm focusing more on fintech and Islamic fintech. This is all about me, inshallah. Today, inshallah, I will talk about some new technologies and how they contribute in acceleration of digital transformation.
Most welcome, Mr. Hatim. And Mr. Khatib Bey, welcome.
Thank you, Mustafa. Always when we talk about technology, of course, this is a subject that is dear to my heart because of this is what we do, and at Path Solutions, which is basically work with banks as a technology partner. We provide them core banking systems, and we provide them the peripheral systems around the core banking. We have many customers who run their bank fully on Path Solutions software. In addition, in the last couple of years, we started two fintechs. One of them is blockchain-based to address international trade finance, and the second one is to work with the retailers and the banks and allowing to do Islamic financing in the retailers. And we are in the middle service that allow and facilitate this for the multi-banks and the multi-customers. So I will be addressing the realities of the new ecosystem that is being developed across the world with the technology and how the technology is changing the financial industry.
Most welcome, Khatib Bey. So let's try to insight deeply about your considerations and opinions about digital new technology trends and in the market. It can be in general, can be in your area, in your country as well, or in specific technology areas you can deeply talk about. We would like to hear about Cyril, Mr. Cyril.
Thank you, Mustafa. I will share my screen to show you a quick presentation. Few slides I have prepared for this conversation. I hope you can see them. That's okay. Yes. Great.
Yes, we see.
Okay. So biometric cards is a new trend that's coming in the market. Many of us have been using the chip and pin card, and we like the way it works. It's convenient, it's safe, it's very good. Contactless transactions since the pandemic has started have also seen an incredible increase, to the extent that several countries have now increased the limit of contactless payments to £100 in the UK or up to $150 in other places as well, which is creating also some risk of stolen and fraud cards. So from there we came at IDEX Biometrics, and since the late 90s, actually, this company has been working on creating a comprehensive solution to have a fully secured authentication using the fingerprint biometrics. What we have here is a slide done, some research done on the Swedish market, which is probably the most advanced market in terms of payment and digitalization across Europe. And when we ask customers what do they prefer about contactless payments, the very vast majority of them said we prefer paying with the card than with the phone. But many of them said we don't also like to touch the POS, especially now with the pandemic and all the germs and the microbes that come with that. We prefer to go contactless, but we're not happy to be limited in the amount that we are using, that we are allowed to spend on our contactless cards. And 75% of the entire base said, yes, we are interested in having a biometrics card. And more than 60% said we're even willing to pay more for it, depending on what value it brings to us and what other features that also allows us to do. So from there comes the why biometric cards. And we have also on the e-commerce side, we have also a big issue on the SCA, which is the strong customer authentication. We're all victim of those very unfriendly one-time passwords that we sometimes receive and sometimes we don't receive when we do our e-commerce transactions. And banks have seen the drop rate very, very high because of that poor customer experience. In a solution where we have a fingerprint put on a card, so biometrics card, to physically authorize a transaction, that makes it very seamless and very, very strong. Also, we're seeing that banks have a very hard time differentiating one from the others. Today, the offering of banks is fairly similar, especially when it comes to payment. They are attacked left, right, and center by any kind of fintech, doing wallets, doing all type of payments. But also, there is now an emergence of challenger banks that come with a very nice and friendly customer journey. So also, this is a way for them to differentiate. Okay. The example we'll share in a little while is through Bnp Paribas, the French bank, who have launched this biometrics card for their premium customers. They found a way to increase the fees on the annual package for those customers. They are charging them an extra €2 per month because of this card. The card is not costing BNP Paribas €2 per month. So it's a new revenue flow. And finally, once that strong authentication method is available within the customers of a bank or an insurance company or whatever else, we can derive from that a lot of other features through the banking application or through the banking app, allowing customers to start authorizing transactions, authenticating themselves, being in the branch or online. So a lot of other features can come from that, which have a direct impact on reducing the cyber fraud. Okay, so here are a few feedback that we've gathered from our customers, and basically they're happy, and their customers are happy because it's a complete touchless transaction. It removes all these contactless limits that we were talking about for the very simple reason that every transaction is authorized with the fingerprint or with the biometrics data. That means that all transactions become contactless and touchless. Okay. If a card is lost, nobody can use it because obviously it's related to our own and personal biometrics. Like I said before, the demand is very strong. Okay, and it's ready to use. So it just uses the existing POS infrastructure. It leverages just the same. So here we have two very short examples of how can we differentiate on the premium segment of a bank, but also how can we differentiate on the corporate segment of a bank. Today, interchange is much higher for the corporate segment, so it's in the interest of banks to have as much corporate spend as they can. But also the fraud rate is very, very high on this segment because obviously there is less of ownership of the cards. So the users tend to think it's less of my personal responsibility or liability. If that card is lost or stolen, the company will cover. Okay. Here again, it really helps ensuring that it is the right individual who's using that. So, like I was saying just before, we start with payment, and then we can add to it many other features for the banks. Okay, so we access digital signature and banking services, like I was describing, and then other features that other services from the bank, cryptocurrencies, digital currencies that also require very strong authentication can be managed through the same banking application, but accessed and authenticated via the service. And then through partnerships, we can also have many other services outside of the banking sphere. So it really opens up the way. And we have done the public transportation in China, where there was a big issue as customers or users of the public transports had on one side to show their ID and on the other side to show their ticket, and it was very cumbersome to have the two together, proving that the owner of that ticket was the one who was allowed to have it. We've grouped all that into one single card, ticket, biometrics, and it works perfectly. That's the example here. And we also have the same for the cryptocurrency in China. Okay. This is the example of Bnp Paribas in France. So they have launched the card. It's with its biometrics card for their premium segment. They really saw the opportunity, and they jumped on it, really, because of all this data and the survey data that I was showing you. They managed to do that in a very smart way. They are the first bank globally to have a commercial launch of this card. Today used for payment only, but expanding through other services pretty fast. Like I mentioned, they added 24 euros per year or 2 euros per month on the actual cost of the Premier package, which made it even more a profitable case for them. So we've analyzed the profitability of portfolios because the card is obviously more expensive than a regular card. But we've analyzed the profitability. Clearly, it shows that it becomes top of wallet. Customers tend to spend more on this card more than on others. And attrition is also reduced because customers value the privacy. They have, I mean, if you have time, check on YouTube. They've done a very nice commercial, which looks like a James Bond commercial. So if you just type biometrics card BNPP, you can find it there. That's it. I will pause for now and hand over to you, Mustafa.
Thank you, Cyril. As far as I understand, with fingerprints now, you are making a hash and very encrypted, strong encrypted in your card, and this new card can be a second factor or strong factor authentication for and touchless. Yani, at the POC machine, no need any pressing button. Just put your card and put your fingerprint, your own card, and no need to any third party pressing button, and the payment will proceed.
Exactly. That's entirely.
Thank you, Cyril. So from new speaker also joined Hani from Istanbul and in a banking industry event. Hani, because of your time restriction, as far as I know, you have a time restriction. So I would like to give you a speech area, as a little wide speech area. Please, if you can combine all your speech in this wide speech area. So because of Safari, you are in travel. So we would like to make you some privileges that you can collect all your speech in one time, if you like.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm sorry for being late. And greetings for everybody. I mean, good afternoon, good evening for everybody. I'm going to be fast, and I'm not going to take much time. The title is, I mean, how technology trends, I mean, accelerate digital transformation. So we have two elements of the subject is digital transformation and technology trends. For me, digital transformation, as used to say from time to time, it is a civilization and cultural process. It's not only, I mean, technology oriented or, I mean, related function as it's to be, I mean, minimized as it's simply an online, mobile and banking functionality. It's more than that. By far, it's more than that. I can see that digital transformation as an ecosystem have 6 dimensions to a certain extent, or key elements. It's you as an institution, either a bank or financial institution. It's your customer journey. It's your journey as an institution also. It's your staff. It's your, I mean, what I can say is the technology itself, which is a key element. And also in the meantime, it's innovation and your operational module to a certain extent as all together. As it relates to digital transfer, trends of the technology or technology trends, simply it could be like 5G, it could be cloud outsourcing, it could be big data, it could be, I mean, artificial intelligence, also it could be blockchain and its results, and also in the meantime, it's biometric measurement in this scenario. Being, I mean, a banker and also involved in this type of digital financial services, I can find that, I mean, technology trends definitely accelerates the digital transformation process. Like for 5G, it's a fact that it improves or made, I mean, the availability to a certain extent, perfect availability. It can speed the process. It has something to do with Internet of Things. So these all together, I mean, definitely push and help to improve or accelerate the process and the implementation of digital transformation. As it relates to cloud and outsourcing, good number of financial institutions and banks are outsourcing their, I mean, part of their operations or core, I mean, banking functionality. This help in more than a way. It will definitely will minimize the operational cost for the bank or financial institution. Also, it will free the bank from, and when I say, I mean, the member bank or financial institutions, free them from doing a sort of development in the systems, upgrade, because the cloud or outsourcer owner will do that on behalf of the bank. Also, in the meantime, it has something to do with the very important element for banks and financial institutions. It's the outside or the remote, I mean, backup and business continuity plan. I do remember when Saddam Hussein attacks Kuwait. I was in Kuwait that time. It was Thursday, 2nd of August, 1990. Kuwait was disappeared from the map of the world. It's no more, I mean, being a valid country. And all banks, they switch off their operation. They cannot operate. There was only one bank that can continue to operate. It was National Bank of Kuwait. And My brother, Mohammed Khatib knows that by heart, because they have their, IT consultant. His name was Simon Clement. He is a British person. He convinced the management of MBK to have a copy on daily basis, download, upload, on their branch in London. So there was, the time where, the MBK was the only bank is continue to do a sort of minimum availability of operation. As it relates to blockchain, we know the effect and the value of the cryptocurrency, where cryptocurrency now it's a fact. And the market value of the cryptocurrencies exceeds $2 trillion. And sometimes, what is the currency name that we are dealing with? I forget the name. Anyway, it exceeds $60,000, okay? Bitcoin. And in the meantime, as also it relates to big data is worth, with the banks, but they don't know how to capitalize and how to organize, how to manage, how to benefit from that. The data mining they own and they have for the benefit of the bank itself and also for the benefit of the customer. But this is also a challenge, and doing that, capitalizing on the big data that banks and financial institutions own helps actually to accelerate the process of digital transformation. Last but not the least, we can talk about biometric measurement. Biometric measurement, yes, it's now which really leads to digital ID. It leads to ID proofing and authentication. It really helps, on remote onboarding for the new customers, improve the authentication of, humans to be certified for any transaction, and also help the eKYC and eAML, etc. This is in brief, how I foresee technology trends, help to accelerate digital transformation. And thank you very much for this chance. And again, I'm very sorry for being late and failed to join on smoothly as usual. But Mustafa Bey, the real brother, helped me at the end and sent another link where I managed to succeed. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Reed.
Most welcome, Andy Bey. Lastly, we would like to ask you, how about the event? Yani, how is now the current event on the subject?
I can't hear you clearly. If you don't mind to raise your voice, please.
We would like to ask you about your current event now. Is current event
yes.
I am in.
It is a forum. It is a Libyan Turkish forum. Very interesting. It can carry. The hall is very big at the Hilton Bomonti Shishli. Okay, where more than 400 attendees. Most of them are from Libya. The core of the forum, it's 3 days from 16 yesterday to tomorrow. I failed to, arrive to Istanbul yesterday because of ticketing and flights availability. The core of the forum is SMEs and how the banks and financial institutions, either conventional or Islamic, can really finance the SMEs, and what is the role of technology. And they are using the word fintech. Now we need to do a session about what is fintech. I can challenge anybody in the world to give me a proper professional definition for fintech. What is fintech for? So everybody is using the word fintech, but fintech itself, we can really define banking, we can define insurance, we can define whatever, okay? So now the role of fintech to help banks and financial institutions to really finance SMEs. I'm going to use the summary I give now about technology trends help in accelerating digital transformation. I'm going to copy that for my speech today. Don't tell anybody else, okay?
Okay.
It's by the way, the forum is organized and owned, managed by the Turkish government about their expertise in the SMEs business and the Libyan government. Libyan government, I mean, Tarablos part is not Benghazi part, okay? Not Haftar. I mean, Haftar is not with you.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Hani Bey, and hope will good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So let's continue. Let's continue with Hatim Bey from Oman and effective in Qatar, as far as I know. We would like to your opinions about technology trends, and as far as I know, you are PhD degree currently. You are completing with thesis about fintech. So we would like to also to hear about these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Thank you for others. First of all, I do agree with Mr. Hani. There is a big misunderstanding about fintech. There is still, this term is not so clear for many of us. And actually, as Mr. Hani said, we need a clear definition of fintech. I do support this point. Secondly, regarding to the how technology accelerate the digital transformation, I'm going to highlight about part of my study and my research in fintech lending and crowdfunding especially. Of course, as you know that at the all-time conventional bank provides lending. It's actually bank's main objective is lending, getting loans, getting deposits and lend people. And this process takes time and consume time, and it goes through many steps, credit and risk and compliance and many other steps within the bank. And then also they check the scoring, the credit, your profile in central banks, and see your crime profile, etc. Then the second phase of that is the web-based, which appeared to the market in last 5, 6, 7 years, web-based technology, where they provide startup fintech or startup companies. They start providing loans and lending to SMEs and individual base through web-based. But still, that was incomplete business model. And there's a lot of back office work. And also it exposed to many risks and threats. Recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, the fintech took more shape, more clarity in the lending area, and especially they start using mobile technology. Mobile technology enables the supplier, the financial institutes, and the customers to come across in one platform and speed up the approval and the loan granting to their customers. This actually will not be happened without the technology availability like cloud computing, which enables hosting the application and the software and in more cost-effective manner. Plus the blockchain, which increase the speed of transaction and reduce the cost and eliminate or reduce the middleman within the role of middleman in the transaction. Of course, also the blockchain has enabled the financial institutes and the fintech startup to fight the money laundering. And then it comes the role of artificial intelligence, where the fintech or the lending or the customers becomes more, his profile becomes more visible to the financial institute. We are able to know even the psychological trends and psychological behavior of the customers from his behaving, buying from the internet, from the social media, his activity on different platforms. This will actually add a value to his credit scoring, and then it becomes more easy for financial institute to take risk and give the loan as lending to or lending this customer. At this moment, of course, mobile technology becomes major and backbone For the fintech, now everything is everything is provided through mobile, and it becomes like full business model from A to Z. There is no middleman. There is very low cost incurred, and SMEs at this time, at this circumstances where the oil prices are falling and some countries have economical issues, SMEs need finance, some source of funds to stand again in the market. And with the bank,
excuse me, Dr. Hatim, and I have to say bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Muhammad Khatib, my brother. Thank you, my brother.
All the best.
Khanim. Thank you, Mustafa. Okay. See you in another webinar shortly, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Massalam.
That's right.
So as I said, that SMEs now are more in need to have a source of funds other than the banks, because banks still, they are regulated and they have some restriction, policies, regulation under central banks. They cannot give or take more risk to grant these loans. So B2B or crowdfunding or invoice financing becomes a source of funding for these SMEs. So this is how technology improved the one sector of financial aspects, which is lending. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hatim Bey, Mr. Hatim. And then we would like to also hear about last session about Oman and around Middle East as far as if mumkin. And then
Yes.
Muhammad Khatib Bey, we would like to hear about your main speech about digital transformation accelerated by how new tech trends. What is your comments about this issue? We would like to hear.
Okay, regarding Oman, Oman actually has low adoption of fintech, according to Deloitte, 2018 or 19, I think. We are at the least adoption in between or among the Gulf GCC countries. And I do agree with Mr. Idris, who just left, that now there's a mix or misunderstanding between the digital services from in the financial arena and the fintech. The good term which I was searching for and I reached to it through the research, fintech fintech solutions are financial services. It's actually a full complete business models. So for that reason, fintech falls into four sectors: lending, insurance, investment, and payment, remittance. These four models are what we can call fintech. And they are actually full business model, A to Z. And the output of fintech, low cost and no middleman, and increase the financial inclusion. Plus, to achieve these objectives, we need to use blockchain and high technology like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, data analytical. Otherwise, we cannot reach to these objectives. If we combine these three angles, then I think we can reach to a complete definition of fintech. For Oman, we have lower fintech adoption, and recently they started building this ecosystem through Oman Central Bank. And I think we need time. We need more time. Actually, in order to have a fintech market, we need first to establish this ecosystem. We need to bring the suppliers or startups of fintechs, support them, grow them. We need regulation, clear regulation, because this is very dangerous. Fintech solutions are very dangerous. It can impact the financial inclusion, financial stability. It has blockchain, and there's a lot of also drawback of blockchain. So and also they have cloud computing. Your data source, your information can be outside of the country where you cannot control and manage. Therefore, once I think Oman starts now slowly, but not sure whether how much or what's their vision. There's a plan, their plan. But actually, I think they start now with, they give permission for crowdfunding platform, but still, I believe that they need to do more and much more in terms of building ecosystem. Still, we do not have sandboxes or innovation hubs. So I don't think we can grant fintech authority to go into market without putting this solution or innovation into observed environment for 1 year to see any deviation from it. Yes, payments are available. All banks, mostly in banks, they provide their services through the payments gateway, through mobile application, but still, it is not fintech. It is financial services, digital financial services, because still middleman is there, and there is no. I mean, still the cost is high. It's not like comparing to Qatar, for example. Remittance in Qatar is very minimal, the charges, comparing to Oman. So this is about Oman, and actually my research is about why there is a low adoption by financial institutes toward lending platforms. Yes, this is the status of Oman.
Thank you, Hatim Bey. We always welcome that the terms and words around the industry and how they are depend on each other, and how sometimes overlap each other, or how sometimes confusion make to each other to understand this kind of classification, like triangles of them. It was layered speech of them was very nice for us to see and to construct again their points according to the sometime from reference points from banks, from reference points from customers, or something like this. Thank you, shukran. For me really I was thank you. I wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Most
my pleasure.
Mohammed Bey, now your turn. We would like to hear about you. As far as we know that your pet solution company providing core banking system to the many banks in effectively in Middle East, but also other Islamic countries as well. So we would like to hear some of your projects. As far as I know, maybe one country you are making some blockchain infrastructure as well, as far as I know. So this kind of real infrastructure developments also we would like to hear. Most welcome. Now we would like to hear from you.
Thank you, brother Mustafa, and thanks to all the speakers. Very interesting content, and I really enjoyed listening to all of you. I think it's interesting to see that there's still confusion about what a fintech is, and I think it is for a good reason, because the banks have come in. It used to be like startups that disrupting the financial industry and doing financial services for a certain service based on a business model. But the banks now are doing these services, and the technology, the big techs are doing it, the telcos are doing it, and there are a lot of players are actually getting into this game. You can even see retail companies and others are actually coming in and providing such financial services, and they're calling themselves fintech. So the fintechs has been a hot word that brings a lot of capital and a lot of investment, and that's why everybody's using that word, because it's the word that if you want money, this is the word to use. I believe because we're talking about banking and the technology transformation, I'll focus on that part. Because the fintech was such a big force that started about 11-12 years ago, and actually during the financial crisis, it got accelerated. This waking up and shook the industry really hard, and the banks had to react, and they start reacting with digital banking, either providing a front-end digital platform to their services, and you can do all these services through the mobile or through the web, or they actually spin completely a different entity and they created a digital bank that is completely separate. And I'm focusing here on the banks. Of course, there are fintechs who created banks, digital banks, and they call themselves banks. And usually they're very limited in the products they're offering, but they are digital banks that came as startups. But I'm going to focus on the banking sector right now and talk about the banks and their response to the fintechs. One of the, of course, major development in the industry and building that infrastructure was that the regulators recognize that it is very important to open up that data that the banks has already for those fintechs. And they realize that the fintechs plays an amazing role in the economy and in the industry and increasing the pie for the country. So you saw a lot of companies and central banks focusing on creating an ecosystem for the fintechs, but how can they force the banks to actually collaborate? And that's where you heard about open banking and initiatives. And in a lot of countries, open banking was forced on the banks. And what open banking is really an application API that the bank has to use to open their data to fintechs. So the fintechs can call these APIs and they can use that data. And in many countries, it's forced by regulators. In other countries, surprisingly, they saw an amazing opportunity to increase their business. So they actually did it based on opportunities without regulators even asking for it. And we've seen that in more on in the Far East versus EU, where it was regulated, Australia, it was regulated, South Africa, etc. So a lot of dynamics are happening on the ecosystem, and the banks having to open their data through open API and have to play the digital platform. They had a huge, I would say, challenge, because they're not built that way. The banks are very conservative organizations, has been very conservative organizations, has been very slow moving into the technology before that. But they were forced in the last 10 years to actually start changing their environment, changing their dynamics to compete in this space. But then something happened that even worsened the situation for the banks and forced the banks to react. I read a statement, what is the best accelerator and CIO for digital transformation in the last few years? And surprisingly, a lot of people would say it's COVID-19, because a lot of banks had digital transformation plans and they have multi-years, but then COVID-19 comes in and all of a sudden within 1 month, all the banks have to provide all their services to their customers digitally while they're sitting at home. And we had a tremendous challenge with our customers who were not ready. They wanted these services, but they haven't really been ready to have, they've been ready to have a mobile users to be 10% of the users, the web users to be 15% of the users, but they were not ready to have 100% of their customers going online on mobile, because their infrastructure was not right, their development, and they basically called us as their technology vendor and said, I want it tomorrow. So we had a lot of, during the 2020, we had a lot of challenges with our customers to actually go up and achieve and help them with the digital transformation, at least for their customers, even though internally, they're still doing a lot of manual work. At least it looks from the outside to the customers in the edge, it looks like that they did the digital transformation. And I do agree, of course, with Brother Hani. It's not all about technology. Technology is the main driver in this revolution. It's definitely the technology plays the biggest role in the fourth industrial revolution. But it's not all about technology, because there's a lot of things, prerequisites have to happen for this digital transformation to happen. So very fast, if you tell me, okay, give me the 5 or the top 3 or whatever things that banks has to do, it is really with a lot of customers, and they've been going through it. A lot of banks has to go through a cultural shift, and it's the cultural shift is up very high from the CEO level down, and to leave that conservatism and move into more of a startup mode and innovative mode and dynamics, which is something they're not used to. So bringing in the chief technologists and bringing in the people who can actually move as fast is a very important in that cultural shift. It's a huge issue. Then you talk about looking at what's happening around the world. It's very important that you look at what's happening in Europe, what's happening in the US, what's happening in the Far East, and learn from the failures, because a lot of people tried things and failed, and they got this success after so many tries. Instead of you going through the whole cycle, why don't you just do that and actually learn from the failures? And the way you innovate and the way you do products, yes, the cultural change has to be innovative, but also it has to be agile. So you have to move more toward the agile mentality and the agile methodology, which is basically you try this, you show it to the customers give you feedback, you modify it, and you continuously releasing and changes to that product. So for a mobile app, if somebody thinks that they're gonna create a mobile app and sit for 5 years with the same mobile app, they'll be out of business. So they need that mobile app to be updated continuously with the new features, and that development is what we call the agile methodology. It has to be continuous, it has to be always improving, and you always focusing on the customer experience. So basically you have to get feedback from the customers, understand how the customers like your applications, how they like the interaction, how do they like dealing with you as a business. And then you keep modifying with the agile methodology this experience, and then test the experience, and you get feedback. So the loop is very you develop, you let the customer use it, you get the customer experience by testing that experience, they get the feedback, and the loop continue to go on. And this is how you perfect your customer experience. And then, of course, one of the most important issues we face with our customers is actually the gap, the internal gap for the banks in the knowledge. And we're talking about, mostly the innovative and the technology and the knowledge. If you have to fill that gap, you have to go after the talent. You have to compete with the fintechs by getting those talents. So these are the things that, from our experience, we've seen with our customers and with our banks and what they needed to do. This is on as a provider and technology partner and the role we played. Of course, on the other side, we played the role of as a fintech. We, Brother Mustafa mentioned the blockchain and all that. We believe the ecosystem, everybody has a role in that ecosystem, and it's developing very fast. And the banks have to understand their competencies and what they are focusing on, and partner with those fintechs to play other roles. And actually, it's been happening in the last couple of years. Less competition, more cooperation, because the fintechs woke up and realized we really cannot win this alone and beat the banks and drive them out of business. That's not going to happen. I said that actually 7-8 years ago, and I'm insisting on it. It has to be a cooperative way of building that ecosystem. The banks realize that the fintechs has value, and they could actually add channels and allow the banks to access their customers much better. So they're saying, well, maybe it is a win-win situation, and maybe this pie that we are competing on, it can really be much larger, and we can access many more customers and provide many more services. And that's what's happening in the ecosystem. And we are at Path Solution proud to actually be adding to that ecosystem with the two fintechs, Trice and iFin. This is really where we are, and we're very excited about what is happening. It is very wrong to look at this revolution. It only happened 4 times in the human race. A lot of people still looking like this on an individual use case or an individual technology, where you have to sit back and look at it as a whole, it's a very, very amazing thing happening in the world. And by the way, parallel to this technology revolution, there is social revolution that is changing the world, and people are, the way we work, the way we live, the way we entertain ourselves, everything is changing so quickly, and our rate of adoption as humans is much slower. So that's why a lot of people are freaking out, and you hear about a lot of actually psychological problems with people and all that coming up because of that adoption in humans is not as fast as the technology changes. We always handled the adoption of changing technologies in the previous technology innovations, but now we have all this technology in the last 10 years, 16 of them coming and throwing themselves on us, and our life is never the same. So this is really what is happening, and we have to realize that and work with that revolution as such, instead of just cutting into pieces and look at one piece at the time, because I think we miss the whole picture as a country, as a society, as a customer, as a bank. We have to look and understand what all those variables are and try to adjust our business models to achieve that. That's my quick take on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khatib Bey. Shukran for your comprehensive general big mapping. Now we are almost in the closing class session. Before I wanted to give our speakers for their last closing remarks and closing speech. I want to mention about the people who are writing to us and some question. Thanks to Ahmed Adofufa from Nigeria. He is one of the Accelerator Center manager of First Bank, I think, or another bank, Access Bank. I am not sure. I am sorry, Ahmed. And İlker from Ankara Municipality, driving technology. Welcome, İlker. Recep Erdoğan, but without Tayyip, just Recep Erdoğan, also the founder of one fintech in Turkey as Payful, and Ibrahim Mosheya from Fincor, co-founder of Fincor, and then lastly Ali Yaki. As far as I remember, Ali Bey from Jordan. I am not sure if I am Ali Bey, if I say it. So for Ibrahim Mosheya mentioned about 5G issue, and I would like to mention about 5G something in your acceptance. As 5G in already there is a 5G map. You can see where is the installations points in 5G, like South Korea, like London or Kedah, how many 5G points. You can even some people during the points they were fighting with the 5G poles because of their they say that this 5G points making COVID and something like this in London. And then for 5G, of course, 5G has a triangle, as Hatim Bey mentioned. There is another triangle in 5G, very specifically or very common. Basically, I mean, one, 5G reduces the latency. Latency is very important to be as much as latency should be, because together with speed, multiply maybe 100 with current speeds, as you know that we are in 4G. And then of course another big issue for industry or even for autonomous devices or TIDA in social, there will be edge computing. Edge computing replaces current points of 4G points. So edge computing means many interaction, many algorithms or data will go and come many fastly, many time, and many IoT devices will be connected even in very small area. Even more than maybe 1,000 or 1 million, of course, devices can be in as much as possible small area to be connected in micro area devices. So of course, these 5G very related with augmented reality and virtual reality. That another issue that and metaverse, of course, now currently we are saying something metaverse. So, so we, as much as possible, we mention as technology trends because of the user side, gaming side, people side, social side will leverage these lifestyles, and then banking industry, of course, will be adopt this kind of issues, will be more and more in digital lifestyles, let's say digital lifestyles. For another questions, let's just Leslie Ali Yaki Bey says certainly COVID pandemic transferred digital services in general from a luxury to a requirement. Of course, welcome Ali Bey. And then for your last remarks of closing remarks, I would like to give you the turn, Cyril Bey, Mr. Cyril. We would like to summarize its closing remarks, and then Hatim Bey, and then Mohammed Bey, we will close the session.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Thank you all for attending. It was very, very interesting, very rich content today. So just to summarize on the biometrics cards, consider that as a payment solution, but also and mainly as an authentication solution that can work very well in the overall digital transformation of society, be it for ID or for digital recognition. This is a solution that we can provide, and we're happy to connect with any one of you. Feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, most welcome, Mr. Cyril. And Hatim Bey, we would like to hear from your closing remarks.
Sure. From my side, I believe that customers now are having more trust in mobile technology, but we have an issue or low trust by financial institutes. So we have to work toward convert or to shift the financial institute to increase their trust into mobile technology, and therefore their intention and adoption will be increased and enhanced toward these technologies, and will be part of their upgrade their legacy systems to modern and up-to-date systems, meets the customer preferences and a new digital generation. Thank you very much. It was nice and pleasure to meet you and be one of you in this webinar.
Most welcome. Thank you, Hatim Bey, Mr. Hatim, and Mohammed Bey. We would like to close your closing speech, and then thanks to all our audience and all speakers, and to Hani Bey also to join. Thanks special to Hani Bey because he is the idea maker of this event, and even to the subject coming from him. Mohammed Bey, we would like to hear your closing remarks.
Thank you, Brother Mustafa. I think my talk was pretty summarized by itself, so I'm not going to be long. I just would like to thank Faster community for continuing to bring this type of seminars and this type of knowledge to our community, and our community is growing extremely fast with all your hard work, Brother Mustafa. So I am very excited about this type of seminars and this type of discussions. Hopefully very soon we'll do few face-to-face, and then we go back to meeting each other face-to-face. But until then, I think you're doing a tremendous job focusing on having really smart conversations and important discussions in our region and our community that are badly needed. So thank you very much. Thanks for all the speakers. I really enjoyed it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Shukran. Your words also, Mohammed Bey. All audiences can see our events, following events also about startups. For example, next week we have distance remote working office management co-founder. One of my friends in London will speak for startup issue. And another week, 2 weeks later, we will be in fintechleadership.com events for pricing of some certain leaders of the area. As a kind of event, more than pricing event, we are getting together, and this is a kind of gift to the pricing is just, but we like to meet each other. And then You can see all these fastercomment.com, and you can see our calendar and events what there. Thank you, and see you next again. And Ali Bey from Jordan, he mentioned that. Thanks to Jordan as well. See you, ma salama. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام. مع السلامة. Thank you.